Hi everyone, my name is Laura and I'm here at Osiadacz Family Farm. Now the motto for this video is let the strong survive, and I'll share with you just exactly what I mean by that. So last night we had a frost. It was actually our second frost. It was a deeper, bigger frost than the first frost, and some of my plants suffered. So I wanted to share with you what this looks like, what it looks like when you have frost damaged plants. So like I said earlier, I knew it was gonna frost. I was exhausted last night. We've had a long growing season. I've had tons of produce, so I was willing to take the risk. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this morning I was a little bummed to see some of the frost damage. I'm not quite sure if all of my plants are gonna make it, especially my squash plants. They are frost tender, and some other plants got some damage as well. But there were some really, there's some plants that were super hardy. I was surprised with my pumpkin that plant still is doing really good. So I just wanted to share with you my hands-on experience with frost and exactly how my plants reacted. So that's enough of this intro. Let's go ahead and take a look at the plants. Okay, first I have my small garden here. As you can see, everything, although it's fall, so not everything's quite as healthy as it is in the middle of the season, everything is looking pretty good for the end of September here in Roslyn, Washington. We have the feverfew. I have some lavender in the front, and then also my pumpkin. I have some onions as well as chives and some broccoli plants, and all are doing fantastic. All right, I am now at pretty much the disaster zone. So this is where I saw my most damage here in the garden, and it is my squash plants. As you can see behind me, the leaves are wilted. Not all of them, so I actually am going to try to salvage these plants. I'm going to cut off the leaves that were damaged because I did have some leaves that look pretty good. They're not wilted like some of the others, so I'm just gonna trim these off. We'll see what those look like after I'm done trimming. And then I'm going to show you some of the plants that aren't damaged as well. Okay, so I already started actually taking some of the wilted leaves off, but I stopped because I realized that I wanted to show you what these plants looked like in this video here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get up closer. As you can see, and I do have some mildew on some of my leaves, which really hasn't affected the plant, but you can see some of the leaves are super wilted. So those are definitely not gonna make it. But if you look kind of at some of these other ones, they're not so bad. If you actually look closer, there's some small ones that still look pretty good. So I am just going to cut off these super wilted leaves because like I said, there's no way those ones are gonna make it, and just see how the plant does. It might surprise us. But in addition to these squash plants, and like I said, I already cut off some of the leaves. They're on the ground here. See those? Yeah, those were some of the bad ones, but like I said, these ones here definitely gotta go. There's a lot of other plants that do really good when there's a frost, and actually even thrive during the colder weather. So of course I have my rhubarb, I have some strawberries, I have my some carrots in there. All those are doing really good. I'm going to turn to this other bed again. More carrots. I have some pepper plants as well as my Swiss chard. You can see I'm so surprised this pepper plant did just fine. So that one's still looking good. These ones are actually still seedlings that are coming up. Some carrots and radishes. And of course there's my lovely sunflower. All of my other ones have died back, so I've cut them down, but this one's still going good, still going strong, so that's lovely to look at. Pictured here are the rows of beans as well as peas. I have some tomatoes in here. Now, please don't judge the weeds. I am extremely busy. I have a full-time job in addition to running our little farm here. So these plants still seem to be doing well. They're not in their full glory, but the beans do look pretty good after this frost. So I'm surprised in how these have done. Now these are towards the end of producing, so we're not getting a ton right now, but we still are, you know, able to harvest them every couple days, and I'm going to continue doing so until they quit producing. Okay, so behind me are our tomato plants, and this year I ran an experiment planting various varieties. I actually didn't grow 2 of any kind of a tomato plant because I had somewhat limited space and I wanted to see exactly how different varieties responded. So I'm going to go through these one by one to show you how they handled the frost, and really we'll talk a little bit about the tomatoes that there's really not very many tomatoes left on the vine because I have harvested them all, and I've done quite a bit of pruning on these this year because I've wanted to really try to optimize the ripening of the fruit. So I did cut off quite a bit of the blossoms, especially towards the end of the season, wanting to really get as much energy going to the fruit as possible. And I can talk about that a little bit more in another video. This one's really about frost, but yeah, let's take a look at these tomatoes now so you can see which ones did well and which ones are a little bit more frost tender. Now, I just wanted to remind everyone, this is the end of our season, so the garden is really on its way out. So please don't judge me by how my plants look right now. I am really just trying to hold on to them as long as I can. Now, the tomato I'm focusing on, this is a yellow pear heirloom tomato, and as you can see, there's still a lot of fruit on this, and I was really worried about this one last night, but like I said, the strong survive. That's my motto here. And this plant really held up. As you can see, it still looks super healthy. I don't even see any leaves I need to trim off due to frost. So this one oh my God, I'm actually so excited just as I'm looking at it again. It looks really good. I'm happy that it did so well after the frost we had last night. Now I'm gonna move on to the next one here. Not very many fruit left. Again, did a lot of pruning. This one does have a little bit of frost damage, especially up here at the top. See that leaf up there? A couple here. But again, the plant overall did fairly well last night. So I'm pretty excited that this plant is going to survive. And this variety is the Brandywine Tomato. So we'll move on next to this variety, and I have been very pleased with this tomato plant this year. It has produced so much fruit. I would say this has probably been my top producer. A lot of it has already been harvested, so there's not a ton left on the plant right now, and this variety is the New Girl Hybrid. Now, as you can see, this plant does have a lot more of the frost damage. You can take a look here at the top. I'm gonna need to prune these leaves off, or I feel the need to prune these leaves off of the frost damaged leaves, especially over here. This one, so you can see these got pretty damaged here. But there's some leaves that are okay. So I think this plant's gonna make it, at least I'm hoping so. And if not, this plant really did its job this year. I had got so many tomatoes from this plant. It was just phenomenal. All right, so this plant was an early producer. It was a determinant type, and I'm just gonna show you the type here because I don't think I'm gonna be able to say it. Let me pull out the tag here. I put them on these little popsicle sticks. So, is that Siletz? Let's just say it's Siletz. But this, it's S-I-L-E-T-Z. This tomato is done producing, so I just haven't pulled it yet. But yeah, it was an okay tomato plant. I probably am not gonna grow it again next year just because it did grow fruit, but it didn't produce near as much as some of the other plants that I have here. So next, this one got quite a bit of frost damage too. You can see those leaves that are really, just really got hit with the frost, so I need to take those off. There are some that are okay, so I think this plant will be okay. This is the Kellogg's Breakfast. Now, I have to say, I am gonna plant this tomato again next year. It looks like it's gonna survive the frost. The tomatoes are so fun looking. So this one's not ripe yet, obviously, but just really cool. Tomatoes, I know they're cat-faced, and I just think they're interesting to look at. So I'm gonna grow that again. Probably not gonna grow it in the same location. I had some really big sunflowers along the fence, which shaded this tomato plant, so I think it would have done a lot better had those sunflowers not been against the fence. So I'll probably put this plant in a different location next year, but again, this one's a keeper, and I am hopeful that with some pruning, this plant will last a little bit longer, and hopefully I'll get to use some of those tomatoes. All right, last but not least, I have to go down the line. So this plant right here, this is the Beaver Lodge, and this one does not have very many tomatoes on it anymore. Let's see if I can show you a few here that are still in the vine. They are starting to blush, so I might pick them today, but there's just a few left. This is a determinate variety, and it did produce a lot of tomatoes. Not as many as the New Grow hybrid, but it was a really good producer too. I got a lot of fruit off this plant, even though it was really small. The tomatoes were medium size, and I think this is one that I will probably grow again next year as well. Here's a few of our herbs, and these always do well in frost, and our perennial plants as well, but I did want to just highlight these for a moment. As you can see, the mint as well as the lemon balm are doing excellent, and hidden down here in the shade, I have some Greek oregano, which is doing well too. Thank you for joining me here today at Osiadacz Family Farm. I hope you learned a little bit about frost and how it can affect your fruits and vegetables. If you enjoyed this video, I ask you to please hit that like button as well as subscribe to our channel to learn more. Until next time.